Personal Protective Equipment Driver/Mechanic. De Leon Excavating, March 2025. OSHA requires employees to protect their employees from workplace hazards through the use of engineering or work practice controls. When these controls are not feasible or do not provide sufficient protection, the use of personal protective equipment, PPE, is required. Introduction. Employers must protect employees. Assess the workplace. Eliminate and reduce the hazards found using engineering and administrative controls. Then use appropriate personal protective equipment. Remember, personal protective equipment is the last level of control. Employers should make sure that each employee demonstrates an understanding of the PPE training as well as the ability to properly wear and use PPE before they are allowed to perform work requiring the use of the PPE. If an employer believes that a previously trained employee is not demonstrating the proper understanding and skill level in the use of PPE, that employee should receive retraining. Other situations that require additional or retraining of employees include the following circumstances: changes in the workplace or in the type of required PPE that make prior training obsolete. OSHA requires employees to protect their employees from workplace hazards through the use of engineering or work practice controls. When these controls are not feasible or do not provide sufficient protection, the use of personal protective equipment, PPE, is required. Wearing a safety helmet or hard hat is one of the easiest ways to protect an employee's head from injury. Hard hats can protect employees from impact and penetration hazards as well as from electrical shock and burn hazards. Employers must ensure that their employees wear head protection if any of the following apply. Objects might fall from above and strike them on the head. They might bump their heads against fixed objects, such as exposed pipes or beams, or there is a possibility of accidental head contact with electrical hazards. Protecting employees from potential head injuries is a key element of any safety program. A head injury can impair an employee for life or it can be fatal. Your head is a very delicate part of your body. In and around your head are your eyes, with which you see, your ears, with which you hear, your nose, with which you smell, your mouth, with which you eat and speak, and your brain, with which you think. Injuries to the head are very serious. For this reason, head protection and safety are very important. There are many types of hard hats available in the marketplace today. In addition to selecting protective headgear that meets ANSI standard requirements, employers should ensure that employees wear hard hats that provide appropriate protection against potential workplace hazards. It is important for employers to understand all potential hazards when making this selection, including electrical hazards. This can be done through a comprehensive hazard analysis and an awareness of the different types of protective headgear available. Class G hard hats are intended for general service use, such as building construction, shipbuilding, lumbering, and manufacturing. Class G hard hats provide good impact protection, but limited voltage protection, proof tested at 2200 volts. Class E hard hats are designed for electrical/utility work. They protect against falling objects and provide protection against conductors with higher voltage levels. Proof tested at 20,000 volts. Types of PPE. Eye and face protection. Types of PPE. Type I provides protection from objects falling directly on the top of the helmet, but not from objects that strike the side, front, or back of the head. Eye and face protection must comply with the American National Standards Institute, ANSI C 87.1-2003. Eye and face personal protective equipment, PPE, shall be distinctly marked to facilitate identification of the manufacturer. The following minimum requirements must be met by all protective devices. Protectors shall provide adequate protection against the particular hazards for which they are designed. Be of safe design and construction for the work to be performed. Be reasonably comfortable when worn under the designated conditions. Fit snugly and not unduly interfere with the movements of the wearer. Be durable. Be capable of being disinfected. Be easily cleanable. Be distinctly marked to facilitate identification only of the manufacturer. Safety goggles are used as primary protection to shield the eyes from heat hazards. Goggles form a protective seal around the eyes, preventing objects or liquids from entering under or around the goggles. This is especially important when working with or around molten metals that may splash. When employees are exposed to high temperatures, additional protection beyond that offered by primary protectors may be required. Use safety goggles in combination with a heat-reflective face shield for severe temperature exposure. Consider specific lens, frame, and ventilation options when selecting safety goggles. Ventilated goggles allow air circulation while providing protection against airborne particles, dust, liquids, or light. Types of PPE. How to insert earplugs properly. To get the best protection from your soft foam earplugs, remember to roll, pull, and hold when putting them in. Use clean hands to keep from getting dirt and gems into your ears. Check the fit when you are all done. Most of the foam body of the earplug should be within the ear canal. Impacts, loading or handling materials such as packages, equipment or heavy objects that could fall, compressions, activities involving vehicles, manual material handling, carts, cuts/punctures, sharp objects such as nails, wire, tacks, staples, screws, scrap metal, chemicals. Verify with your supervisor temperatures, extreme hot or cold work surfaces and or materials. Protection from hazards. Shoes with metal toe cap protects against knocks. Falling objects. Rubber shoes protect against chemical materials. To ensure the greatest possible protection for employees in the workplace, the cooperative efforts of both employers and employees will help in establishing and maintaining a safe and healthy work environment. In general, employers are responsible for performing a hazard assessment of the workplace to identify and control physical and health hazards, identifying and providing appropriate PPE for employees, training employees in the use and care of the PPE, maintaining PPE, including replacing worn or damaged PPE, periodically reviewing, updating and evaluating the effectiveness of the PPE program. On May 15, 2008, a new OSHA rule about employer payment for PPE went into effect. With few exceptions, OSHA now requires employers to pay for personal protective equipment used to comply with OSHA standards. The final rule does not create new requirements regarding what PPE employers must provide. The standard makes clear that employers cannot require workers to provide their own PPE, and the workers' use of PPE they already own must be completely voluntary. Even when a worker provides his or her own PPE, the employer must ensure that the equipment is adequate to protect the worker from hazards at the workplace. Examples of PPE that employers must pay for include goggles and face shields, hard hats, hearing protection, high visibility vest. Payment exceptions. Under the OSHA rule, employers are not required to pay for some PPE in certain circumstances. Non-specialty safety toe protective footwear, including steel toe shoes or boots, and non-specialty prescription safety eyewear, provided that the employer permits such items to be worn off the job site. OSHA based this decision on the fact that this type of equipment is very personal, is often used outside the workplace, and that it is taken by workers from job site to job site and employer to employer. Everyday clothing, such as long-sleeve shirts, long pants, street shoes, and normal work boots. Ordinary clothing, skin creams, or other items used solely for protection from weather, such as winter coats, jackets, gloves, parkas, rubber boots, hats, raincoats, ordinary sunglasses, and sunscreen items such as hairnets and gloves worn by food workers for consumer safety. Lifting belts, because their value in protecting the back is questionable. When the employee has lost or intentionally damaged the PPE and it must be replaced. In general, employees should properly wear PPE, attend training sessions on PPE, care for, clean and maintain PPE, and inform supervisor of the need to repair or replace PPE. Common causes of foot injuries include crushing, penetration, molten metal, chemicals, slippery surfaces, and sharp objects. 2. True. B. False. Answer is A. True. Who is responsible for providing PPE needed to comply with OSHA standards? The employee. OSHA. The employer. Workers' compensation. Answer. C. The employer. Hazard controls must be addressed in which order of priority? Substitution, PPE, workaround, and administrative workaround. Stop work, PPE, and engineering. Stop work, PPE, engineering, and substitution. Substitution, engineering, administrative, and PPE. Answer. D. Substitution, engineering, administrative, and PPE. Which type of hard hat would provide the most protection from electrical hazards? Class A, Class C, Class E, Class G. Answer. C. Class E. Hearing protection is required when noise levels exceed OSHA's PEL as a TWA 80, 90, 100, 110. Hearing protectors are required when noise levels exceed the OSHA permissible exposure limit, PEL, of 90 dB measured as a time-weighted average, TWA. 29th 1910.95. B. 1. Who is responsible for providing specialized work footwear? Insurance companies, the employee, OSHA, the employer. Answer: D. The employer. Which of the following is considered approved eye protection? Sunglasses, prescription glasses, reading glasses, glasses meeting ANSI standards E87. Answer: D. Glasses meeting ANSI standards E87. Which of the following is not considered PPE? Rubber gloves, glasses meeting ANSI standards E87, sports shoes, hearing muffs. Answer: C. Sports shoes. Conclusion. At De Leon Excavating, we value the safety of all team members. Please remember, your job requires PPE. Wear your PPE every day. Keep track of your PPE we provided. Tell your foreman if you do not have PPE. Additional PPE can be provided and deducted from your next paycheck.